Hello, Money Queens and listeners. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. Let's meet the women behind the millionaires, the women supporting, guiding, celebrating women with their wealth. You will hear from women millionaires, how they got there, what they wish they had known, what got them to be a millionaire, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the practical side of wealth. You'll also get to meet the women behind the scenes helping make it happen. Let's dive into Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, best-selling author of 3 books, wealth advisor, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. Let's start meeting the women. Hello, Money Queens. Welcome back to another episode of Women Behind the Millions, where we talk all things power, prosperity, and the color pink. And tonight we're adding in another P here with practice management. So all of you ladies in finance, you're going to want to listen up. We're going to talk about what distinguishes the top leading financial practices from the average. And to give you an idea, the top firms, their client onboarding process is 2 weeks quicker than the average. And it also cuts through a lot of the confusion for clients. So they're getting this amazing overall experience that makes them raving fans of you, which gives them what we all love, referrals, those amazing introductions just to keep deepening our relationships. Now, you see a QR code here. You do not want to miss another one of our episodes. So go ahead and click the link and add it to our email list, and we will get you all of our market updates, strategies, trends that are happening here with wealth. Well, tonight we have the privilege of having with us Catherine Williams. She is a head of practice management at Dimensional. She spent 20 years as a chief operating officer for a large RIA. She was an executive business coach at Carson Group. My father's been part of the coaching program and used it for many, many years. She was a VP of practice management and consulting with Fidelity Investments. Let's bring Catherine Williams on. Hello, Catherine. How are you tonight?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I had the privilege of hearing you speak in Toronto for our TOT retreat, and I was blown away. So right away, I direct message you on LinkedIn. Will you come on our show, please?
Love it. Love it. That was a fun session, fun group.
It was. And you said something that made everybody lean in. You said something about I was in 8 countries in 5 days. Yes. How many countries have you been at this year, would you say?
Well, I just got back from Scotland a couple of days ago, so I really have lost track, and I'm incredibly thankful. Some of it's been for fun, but I also do get to travel to engage with advisors around the globe, and that is just about as much fun as you can imagine. Talking with advisors, helping them think about their clients. So it's been a mix of both personal and professional, but keeps me busy.
That is incredible. We all knew right away you have something important to say. If you're getting brought all around the world, not just a country, to speak on practice management and best practices, protocols, it is fantastic. And in Toronto, you showed us this amazing survey that shown the leading firms versus the average. Can you talk to us about this portion of your work that you do?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean, certainly it's very much in the Dimensional DNA that we love data. We love to look at data to help inform our decisions and the choices that we make. And it's really no different when you think about all the other areas of an advisor's business. And so over 15 years ago, we began helping advisors benchmark their business and really look at least once a year how they're doing alongside their peers. What are they doing really well that they absolutely must keep doing, which is a lot of things really well. But what are some things that you might consider doing differently and maybe leverage from the experience of other firms to leapfrog your way through some of those challenges? So that's our main study. And then we also have an incredible investor, which is end client study that we've been running as well. 100,000 end clients around the globe have participated in that study. And so we love when we can put both the data for an advisor's business right alongside what their clients say they value and they place a premium on in their relationship. And through all of that, we arrive at what we call a very specific group called high performing firms. And these are firms that have met 5 very key criteria. It's not just enough to have strong revenue growth, although really important. But we also want to understand, are you retaining your people? Are you retaining your clients? What does profitability look like? And if you are a mid to larger firm where you have multiple advisory teams, what does that revenue per advisor look like? How are you managing capacity? How are you managing the overall growth? Dump all the firms each year in the study together, and we look at the top quartile, and that makes up those high performing firms. And they really are doing a lot, not just filling their pipeline and bringing in new clients, but they are incredibly purposeful about how they're running the business day to day, which as a former COO is, of course, near and dear to my heart.
They seem to be very intentional. Where are they spending their money? Where are they spending their time? How are they building out their team? How much are they auditing all the different pieces of their business?
I would say yes, for the most part, they are. It's, I actually get second only to when a firm says, we did your study for the very first time. I love when when a firm says to me, because of the questions you asked, it really made us go back and begin tracking that in our business. So, where do clients come from? Which, of course, we know statistically, most clients come from a client referral. But really understanding, are you delivering a referable experience? So how long does it take for a client to onboard? You mentioned that at the top of the piece here, really critical. I mean, if you do not begin charging your clients, i.e., capturing revenue, until you've onboarded that client, doing that 2 to 3 weeks faster seems like a pretty good thing, in my opinion. And so these organizations are measuring all of that. They, of course, are aligning their compensation plan with the behaviors they most want to reward. Nothing makes me a little crazier than when I engage with an organization that says, we really want to grow. And then you look at their comp plan, and there's nothing about that comp plan that is an incentive to grow the business. So these high performing firms have looked at it both through the client experience, the people experience, and of course, what do they need to do around all of that from a technology, managing the finances, all of that. Very purposeful. And by the way, we have high performing firms in all of our revenue peer groups. So these are firms that are, for all intents and purposes, even a sole practitioner, all the way up to those 50, 60, 70 billion plus, revenue firms. So it's all about the levers you're pulling, more so than the size of your business per se.
Thank you for saying that, because I feel we get stuck in this. I need to have this huge team to be successful. What I love about the industry is success looks so different for everybody. You could have a working mom who just loves to have $20-30 million book, brings a nice recurring revenue for her, but she has time and flexibility for her family. Or you could have somebody with billions of dollars in assets under management, and that's success to them.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, I always want to give permission, even, when I'm presenting into a room, for example, or meeting with a group of advisors or firm owners, to say, growth may mean something different to each of you. Some firms, of course, as you said, they want to be, and they are, they want to be 10 times bigger than they are today. And that's driving, of course, a lot of M&A activity and hunt for talent and all of that. But we are absolutely, at the end of the day, an industry of beautiful, you could even almost call them family businesses, but they are highly profitable, well run, and they are changing the lives of clients in their community. And those, to me, are, the value proposition of that is just as good as if you wanted to, be a $100 billion firm, in my opinion.
Yes, and they're able to do that boutique relationship service, focus service as well. Are these leading firms, how are they integrating AI into their practice? Is it becoming a bigger portion of it? Are they avoiding it? Where do you see them?
We do see a little bit of avoidance, but not as much. Not as much as perhaps maybe when, Robo first came out and everybody, kind of panicked a little bit, if you will. We know over 70% of the participants in our study this year said that they are using some sort of AI already. I think from there, it can differ depending on the not so much the size of your business, and maybe the complexity of your business, the complexity of the clients you're working with. So it can run the gamut. I'll take an easy one. Probably the number one almost low-hanging fruit, if you will, around AI these days within advisory businesses is this area of note-taking, transcribing, just capturing the conversations you're having, helping you with thinking, getting all that information into your ultimately probably into your CRM, for example. And there's some great baseline technology around that. And when I talk with CEOs, when I talk with business owners, they say, look, I would pay 10 times more. In case there's a vendor listening, I probably shouldn't say this, but they're like, we would pay 10 times more for that piece of technology just for the psychological benefit it gives back to our people, that instead of spending 20, 30, 40 minutes capturing notes, transferring those notes, translating those notes, if you will, I've given them time back in their day, and that is worth its weight in gold. So that is baseline, if you will. But think about what you could then do with the information that's been captured. And that's really the next iteration where we see organizations who are really leaning in around AI, turning the dial on that. So it's not just enough to capture notes. It's not just enough to capture client communication. But how do we then use that information across the business over time? Not just that relationship, but all the relationships. Where do we see some consistencies in what clients are valuing or what we're talking about in meetings with them? How can we use what we capture to then play back to clients, or maybe even broader, turn it into what would become marketing and growth opportunity communications for these organizations? So that's 2.0, right? That's or 3.0 even. And there's some great providers out there. You can absolutely stick with, hey, we just want to capture notes. We just want to make sure we're capturing conversations. That's fine. But think about what it can ultimately do for your business over time. And that's where we see that AI piece getting dialed up. And it's quite honestly, I would say it's happening maybe a little bit more robustly with those smaller to mid-sized firms, because there's a nimbleness to the firms of that size versus, I often make the analogy of, the difference between turning a speedboat versus an aircraft carrier. And it's not a lack of appetite to adopt per se, but it's just a bigger machine to incorporate AI in versus the small organizations. There's so many sort of easy wins with AI. We really see those organizations leaning in on that. And I do believe what it will translate to over time is the kind of growth that they're looking for, very purposeful. They may or may not need to hire someone right away, or if they do, they're going to be looking for skill sets in those roles, in those people that can help them use that AI even in a more powerful way. So we do see it running across the gauntlet, if you will.
Oh, thank you for going into that. And I could see where it saves them from hiring somebody, or when they hire somebody, that is that client touch point. And the AI is able to do all the background work for them. Even what I do with my show, I take the transcription and I enter it into our AI. So it rates me and it gives me suggestions.
Yes.
And to your point, even with client meetings, the way we would say something is very different than a client would say. So now we're getting their verbiage that we can use for things like social media, digital marketing, speaking in their terms, that's going to resonate more with those ideal clients.
Well, and here's the thing. We do naturally bring in biases into client meetings. We may gravitate toward, let's assume maybe there's a couple, or a husband and wife or partners sitting across the table. We might gravitate toward one versus the other from a personality fit standpoint. But it doesn't make that other person in the room any less important. And I think when you can capture the conversations and not only you review them, but maybe have somebody else on your team take a look at them, the chances of picking up on something nuanced, something that person said that didn't quite click with, didn't quite hit your brain, so to speak. I just think the richness of the opportunity around enhancing that client experience is significant, even if you are using then that transcription or that recording for other purposes as well.
Yes. And it seems it's not going to take away the advisor's role. It's only going to make us stronger, more relatable, and valuing what the client values.
That's right. That's right.
Work.
Absolutely.
That brings up to a conversation we've been having a lot at the Wealth Boutique, our firm. When is there too much tech? So now we have AI. There are, from when I launched our RIA, which was about 3 years ago till now, the amount of technology has 100 times what we had before. And it just keeps getting more and more robust. And all of a sudden, we have all these different plugins. But you make a comment, it's not how much you have, it's how you use it.
Yes. I remember, I'm going to date myself by saying this, but it was probably a good 15, 18 years ago. I went into an advisor's office in Arizona, and he kind of almost practically grabbed my arm. He's like, come look at this. Come look at this. And he drags me into the conference room. It's like, this is a brand new technology. I'm helping to pilot, beta test it. I want to show it to you. And it was Riskalyze, which, is going to around now for a really long time. And I remember looking at that thinking like, wow, that's pretty cutting edge, and there's, I don't know that there's a lot of other options out there that look like this, right? But then now to your point, there's a lot of options out there. It's very rare for us to go into a business today of any size and not see a decent tech stack. Most organizations, and we've studied this in our study as well too. There's the consistent, CRMs and portfolio management, financial planning, all the things that help you deliver what we would call kind of table stakes these days. But we do see a lot of opportunity to drive efficiencies, drive workflows, and drive integration of that technology. And by the way, by integration, we don't necessarily even just mean within your four walls, but also with your custodian or with your other partners. There seems to always be a rich opportunity around that. Here's the tricky part. At the end of the day, all of that really comes down to human behavior. And so when we see organizations that have high integration of technology, really solid workflows that they can truly measure their business against, we see a couple of characteristics in play. Number one, leadership is fully on board and using the technology as well. They're not just leaving it up to the operations team or leaving it up to the client services team. They really are using and adopting that technology. They're in a way championing it as well. They're also paying close attention and really holding those technology partners accountable for playing nicely with their other technology. And if you're looking at a brand new technology and you can't get a sense from them of how much they are improving and enhancing the technology, how much they're driving integration with other pieces of technology, I would be hesitant to move forward. So those are a couple of things that we see in organizations that have really leaned in around. And I often encourage firms to think of technology as another employee. So before you go hire, do an examination. Are some of the tasks that we need to get done, can they be handled by technology? If not, then we know we need to hire a human, but what are the skill sets of that human being? And really always be stress testing, if you will, how well your technology is serving you in that way.
Yes. I keep thinking of, do we have the capacity to even bring on the new technology so that we utilize it and integrate it properly? And to your point on that leadership, if it's just for the team to use, but they're out of the mix of it, is it really going to be sustainable and lasting?
Well, we know from our study that on average, high-performing firms have about 15 to 16 services, unique services that they're providing to their clients. And if you assume for a moment that even, 90%, maybe probably 100% of those services entail some sort of technology, you can appreciate how complex that tech might get pretty quickly, right? Just for purposes of delivering services to clients. Now, some of them may be, we're sitting down and it's a live body that's talking through their estate plan, for example. But there's probably an estate planning software in play as well too. And so we know that with that increased complexity, and by the way, high-performing firms not only tend to have more services for their clients, but a greater percentage of their clients use those services. So talk about, getting technology and then scaling it. And that's really the key there. You can have all the best technology in the world, but if it's not really truly scaling your business over time, it may not actually be a necessary technology, or where there's probably opportunity to improve it.
Ooh, great point. Scaling the technology. And to your point, having clients fully engaging with all of these services, very well-rounded practice, stickier clients, more likely to refer, that magic word as well.
Yes.
Well, we're at the point of the show where we are encouraging all of you viewers to go to our YouTube channel and post a comment question for Catherine. We will get it answered for you. Scan the QR code, post the comment, and you get a chance to win some of our Pink Fix merch. Let's take a look. Welcome to the Pink Fix Shop, where rebels, trailblazers, and legacy builders find their voice in every sip, stitch, and page. From best-selling teas to manifesting mugs, every item is designed to spark conversation and celebrate your story. Start building your legacy in style, only at pinkfixproductions.com. All right, we are back with Catherine. Make sure to go over there and post a question, comment on it. Let's recap real quick, Catherine, before we move into the last piece that I want to talk, really hone in on you with. The leading firms, they are creating a benchmark. They are auditing their processes, their workflows, their team. They're then tracking it weekly, monthly, proactively tracking it, not at the end of the year. What went wrong this year? We didn't hit our goals. And then the tech, having that leadership, holding it accountable. How can we scale it? And the one point, and I wrote this down, 15 to 16 unique services. I got to go and look what we have. That is such a great just benchmark for us all to have in there. And it's not about what you have, it's how you're using it.
Agree.
Wow. So the last topic I want to cover with you, Catherine, we've heard the statistics that women make up 20 to 30% of advisors, a number that hasn't changed in 3 decades, 30 years. I've experienced it. I grew up in the industry. My father's been an advisor for 40 years. I remember reaching out to the few successful advisors, female advisors out there. They did not have time to speak with me. But it seems the tides are changing and women are much more collaborative, community-oriented. Are there more women joining the industry? And how are we holding our own with so much men in the industry?
So it's not an area that we've spend a great deal of time measuring. I would like to do more of this and more measuring in the future, if you will. But it does definitely seem as if more women are coming into the industry, and specifically into the investment advisory space, right? And so this idea that, yes, you need to have, and we know this from our global investor study, clients expect you to have really strong investment acumen. They want you to be able to handle that side of things, if you will. But the idea of really deep financial planning, I think, has created an attractive opportunity for women. And it's not, I know some amazing financial planners that are men. So I want to be very careful about these big, broad brushstrokes we're using. But I do think, certainly, I still find sometimes I'm the only woman in the room, but for sure, when I first started out, I was more often than not the only woman in the room. And I love that now oftentimes I can walk into a room, I look around, there's not only, women that have been around for a little bit like me, but more importantly, there's young professionals that are coming along. I see it here at Dimensional. I see it in a lot of the industry events and interactions that I have. So I do think it's improving. I think it's growing. And I think a lot of that is the ability to describe what we do in a way that is really about, and this is not to say, don't worry, you don't need math skills or anything. And in fact, I know someone with mad math skills, but what is the relationship you're looking to build, and how can you go about doing that with not just a current client family unit, but even for their future generations? And being able to talk about that as the win for the industry, I think has been able to attract a lot of women to the industry. I also think there's a level of flexibility that wasn't there before, relative to if women want to step away for a little bit of time or only do it part-time, maybe even job share, things like that. I think with technology and the service offerings and everything we have in place now, and of course the CFP has been hugely focused on this, I think that's attracting a lot of really great female talent.
That is very reassuring to hear, Catherine.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but we have just filled our 3rd book of Financial Trendsetter Women. So 10 to 15 women, each book feature their stories through the industry, and it funds our scholarship. So we're working on our 3rd scholarship for women who are studying finance in college, and we give them grants because we're trying to get more women in. And now we have a mentorship program. So not only get more women into the industry, but keep us here so we can keep growing strong as well. Well, we only have one more question for you, Catherine, as this has gone so fast. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
What makes you a woman behind the millions?
Oh my gosh, can you repeat that?
What makes you a woman behind the millions?
Oh, well, you know what? I think that when you operate with grace and an interest in bringing the next generation along with you. And I'm squarely in sort of that older generation at this moment in time. I think that that is a really powerful way to go about not only just living your life, but also contributing to what the future is going to look like for women. And so that's how I would answer that question. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And one effect, taking the time to come on shows like this, speaking around the world, you're just encouraging so much of us female advisors that we can have the practice of our dreams and do really strong work for our clients and change those communities. So that's what the show is about. It's like the behind the scenes look at what does it take to get women to have more wealth, grow more wealth, and impact in the end. It's really about legacy and impact.
And it really, the ripple effect is incredible. And I get the opportunity to see that around the world. So keep doing it. Everyone who's watching today that's in those particular trenches, the goodness is a very real thing. Yeah.
It is. Thank you so much, Catherine, for being on with us. It's been incredible spending some extra time with you outside of the Toronto retreat. On to your next speaking engagement country that you're going to go and visit. And thank you all so much to our viewers and listeners of Women Behind the Millions. Thank you, Money Queens. We will see you next Thursday on another new episode. Hey, Money Queens, looking to get your wealth to that next level, 7, 8, 9 figures? Follow us on Instagram at PinkFixMyMoney and at Women's Wealth Boutique for more millionaire money tips.